Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Tier 9 American Premium Tank Destroyer, the TS-60. Now if you did like the video, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, as it really does help out the channel. And yes, the TS-60, this is the tank that you will get in the Ultimate Pass for 6,000 gold. And is it worth it? Well, I do think this is a very, very good tank destroyer, because you can play this thing very much like a heavy tank. But if you need to, you can also default back to playing like a tank destroyer and play from further away. The gun handling on it is a bit wonky at times because the base accuracy isn't that good, but because of crew skills and stuff like that, you can get the gun handling to be really fantastic. And because you've got such good aim time as well, it means that the gun gets aimed in on target very, very quickly. The armour on it, like I say, holds up pretty well, especially when you're side-scraping. It only really starts to suffer when people do spam premium at you. And when people spam premium at you, it makes the turret go from being godly to sort of a bit more struggly. And you'll see that in some of the replays as well. But it does have, if you were to be looking at this thing and shooting at it, the weak spot on top of the turret here, the cupola, is very, very pennable. Again, you're going to see that in some of the replays. And that's where you want to be shooting it if you look at this thing. The lower plate on this thing is actually really good as well. It's really thick and then pretty well angled. So when people are angling like that, it's actually a bait. And you can ricochet quite a lot of shots off your lower plate, which is really good for the tank. But yeah, on the whole, it can play very heavy tanky. The gun with the DPM is really nice, and the armour works, as well as being able to default back to a TD. Is it mad? No, I don't think it is. I think it's not all. It's got really good strengths, but it's not absolutely infallible. And I have thoroughly enjoyed playing this Tier 9 TD. And for 6,000 gold, I don't really think you can go wrong, because naturally, well, really, it's a Tier 9 premium for 4,000 gold, because as I always say with the season passes, if you buy the Ultimate Pass, you're paying 4k for the tank and then 2k for the season pass, but you get that 2k gold back if you complete the season pass, right? So realistically, it's 4k for a Tier 9 premium when they tend to be like, what, 15 to 17k? So that's really not a bad deal for this vehicle, and if you were to decide to pick it up, it's really not a bad tank at all, because it is, like I say, it's really quite a fun tank to play. So, without further ado, let's get into the statistics of the old TS-60. So, we've got a 35km/h top speed with a 12km/h reverse speed, 850 horsepower, that gives us 15.45 horsepower per ton ratio. So, it is a little bit slow. It is, again, in that heavy tanky range with its speed. So, you could buff that up with the traction system if you wanted to, get up to 38km/h, but I tend to spec it for a bit more camo-y build so that I can actually, again, default back to tank destroyer if I need to. And yeah, so 35km/h is a bit slow, and it does mean that you get to positions a little bit slower than a lot of other TDs, but it's still not horrific, especially since you actually have some kind of armour. You've got 12% internal fire chance, which is actually on the lower end of fire chances, but to be honest, if you get shot in the front end when you're sideways on and stuff, this thing tends to get lit on fire, and quite a few of them have been lit on fire when I've shot at them. So yeah, bear that in mind, that if you do get shot in the front end, you've got to be very, very careful that fire will happen. But 12% is actually on the lower end, so it's really weird that this thing does get set on fire quite a lot. You've got 1900 hit points, which is a good slug of hit points for a Tier 9 TD. That's more like heavy tank hit points, but that really lends itself to the way that this tank actually plays. You've got 28 degrees a second hull rotation speed, which isn't the fastest. You might want to make that better with the crew skills if you want. It's down to you and how you want to set up the tank. You've got 2.9 soft terrain resistances, which is really quite bad, and that means that if you go on soft, it will be really, really quite slow. So you might want to help the ground resistances out with off-road driving as well. It's completely down to how you want to set it up. But you got 1.4 on medium and 1.1 on firm, which isn't too bad either. You got 339 meters of steel concealment. That is with a camo applied, but you do get the skin for the TS-60 with the Ultimate Pass. And yeah, 339 meters of steel concealment, which is really good. And like I say, you can get that down to a really good level as well if you put the camo net on, have the camo skills. You got 380 meters of view range as well, which is pretty solid for a TD. It means that you'll be able to spot yourself, well, spot for yourself, I should say, at least. And then you'll be able to spot your own targets and slam shells down range. You've got an 18 degrees a second turret rotation speed, which is slow, but that is in line with a lot of turreted tank destroyers where your turret traverse is pretty damn slow, so it will take a bit of time to get your gun on target if you are aiming one way and have to get it fully over to the other. That's where you might want to have to swing your tank round to be able to get the gun on target. You've got a 0.45 accuracy during rotation, which is absolutely fantastic, to be fair, and a 3.38 accuracy during movement, which it really isn't. But again, tends to be in line with what tank destroyers tend to have. Pretty bad accuracy during movement, but during the turret rotation, it's not too bad. You got 7 degrees of gun depression, which is nice. It's not absolutely fantastic, it's just nice. It's not bad, it's just nice. Because you're not struggling to get the gun down on target when you're on a ridgeline, but you will find it awkward in quite a few situations having that 7 degrees of gun depression. But it's not like having the Soviet-esque 5, where it's a bit of a pain in a lot of situations as soon as you sort of hit a little bump. 7 degrees isn't too horrific. You've got a 9.2 second reload, which is a base 2.6k DPM, which is really nice for this tank, and you get that up even higher, which is great. The DPM on this tank is very, very nice. You've got 0.42 base accuracy, which is pretty horrible, but again, with the crew skills, with food, etc., you do get the accuracy of the tank up to, well, sorry, not up, down to a pretty good level. You've got 1.7 second aim time, which is absolutely phenomenal. It means that even though the gun bloom on this tank is massive, because 3.38 accuracy during movement is not very good, it means that your gun does get aimed in on target very, very fast, and you're all good. I did forget to mention the minus and plus 136 degrees of yaw limit for the tank. Means this tank doesn't have a fully traversable turret. It turns most of the way to the back end, but then it's got a big thing at the back of the tank that actually blocks your turret from being able to turn all the way, so be very, very careful of that. It's very much like the T-28 Proto, right? It's very much like the T-28 Prots kind of turret traverse, okay? If you've played that tank, you'll know what I mean. You have AP, Heat, and HE with 258 pen on the standard AP, which is fantastic. 320 pen on the Heat rounds, which, again, glorious. And 60 penetration on the HE, which can be a little bit of a letdown when you're facing stuff like the Waffle 100s these days, because the Waffle 100s was the ones that you would pen back in the day with these things, but now they've got like 90mm of armour. You can't pen it with HE. But at the same time, you can still pen lots of the stuff like the SU-130PMs, Waffle, Panzer IVs, the Ball Sigs, you know, all those good stuff with it. And you get 515 damage on that HE, which is pretty decent. With 400 out from the other two rounds. You've got 1,150 meters a second shell velocity on the standard AP, which is pretty decent for standard AP, but 950 meters a second shell velocity on the Heat and 850 on the HE. So bear in mind, if you switch to the Heat rounds, they do have a lot slower velocity, so that means you have to lead your targets a lot more than you do with the standard AP. And you've got no bonuses because you are a tier 9, well, you've got 5% tank XP bonus because you are a tier 9 premium, they don't tend to get the XP bonuses that other premiums tend to get. So that's the statistics of the tank. Let's have a quick look at the armor profile. Like I say, you can see here with the plates, we've got 300mm of thickness on some parts of the turret, 250, 220. The turret is a really hardy thing, but you just got to be very, very... And it's very well angled as well when you're looking at it. Just with these sorts of angles means that this turret will bounce a lot, and it has, for me, bounced a lot. But as soon as people do like to press A at tier 9 and tier 10, that's where your armor tends to start to struggle. And again, you'll see that in some of the replays. You've got that 170mm of lower plate, by the way, which is what makes this lower plate fantastic. It means that if you're angled like that, the amount of bounces that you will get on this lower plate is just mental. You'll think, oh, you know, they're going to pen my lower plate, and then they start ricocheting. You go, oh, that's pretty nice. You have 80mm of side armor, which means, again, you can side scrape really quite reliably with it. And these little turret bulges, the turret ring, that actually, thickness-wise, is 210 to 220 with very good rounding, which means you do ricochet shots off that turret ring. It doesn't tend to catch shots quite as much. But again, if people are firing premium, this rounded section here, that's down here, at 90mm of thickness, does catch shots if you're not careful. So you just, again, you don't want to side scrape and just sit there and go, haha, you can't pen me, because again, if premium rounds come in like heat rounds and stuff, they will pen that spot there. So you've got to be very, very careful, and it's on both sides as well. And as you can see, the cupola on top is layered with 55mm, 75mm, and 95mm on this cupola, so that is very, very pennable as a spot if people are shooting at it, and you will pen that a lot of the time when you're shooting at it with your tier 9 guns. So that is the weak spot of the tank. So let's have a look also, while we're here, at the modules. You can see the ammo racks there are in the back of the turret and the back of the tank in general. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Be careful when you're shooting at this thing. This shovel on the back is only 10mm thick, but it is modelled. So if people decide to fire HE at it or heat, that can actually absorb them. So be very careful of that, by the way. If heat rounds go into this shovel because of the spaced armour on it and it's a little bit further away from the tank, the heat rounds can just go, no. And I've had that with the T-54E1 that YOLO'd me. He bounced loads of shots, but because he got round my back and he was auto-aiming, he was just hitting the shovel and getting them absorbed. So yeah, be very, very careful of that. But yeah, you've got the ammo racks in the back there. The crew are sat in these positions on the tank. And the engine block, which is why you tend to get set on fire a lot, is here on the tank as well. It just tends to be that if people shoot you here in the side, they will light you on fire. So be very, very careful of that in your tank. So let's have a look at what equipment and commanders I would put in it. So I've put my commander in the AAT-60. Let's move it over to the TS-60. I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Camouflage Expertise, Silent Driving, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun. The 3 gun perks to make this gun as good as humanly possible. The Camouflage Expertise to make the camo better on this tank, because again I can then default to being a tank destroyer, with the silent driving as well to help the camo while on the move. And these 5 perks in general are what you're going to take on every single tank. This crew is very interchangeable for this tank. You could definitely drop Snapshot because the accuracy during rotation is so good. You could definitely drop that and run Rapid Aim instead to make the turret traverse better, because the turret traverse is slow. If you feel like the track traverse is way too slow and you want to turn quicker, you could run clutch braking. If you feel like the ground resistances struggle, you could put off-road driving on. Or because you can play this tank in a very brawly way, you might want to put track mechanic on to get your tracks back on as quickly as possible if you do get tracked and you've already burnt your repair kit, because that can be awkward in brawly situations. And I think this tank primarily is probably going to be playing very brawly, so that might definitely be something you want to drop instead of Snapshot. And it's the same as if you want to drop the camo. You might want to... I'd always recommend keeping the camouflage expertise, but maybe dropping the silent driving if you want to play more brawly and running something like armor angling or any of the perks that I've just listed, right? It's down to you and how you want to set up the tank and how you feel comfortable with it. And then in terms of equipment, well, I run food because food is so good. I run the advanced loader to make the DPM even better on this tank because the DPM is fantastic. The optics to make the view range better so I can at least spot for myself and get some assistance if I want to, but also be able to see my targets at further distances and make use of my camo. And the camouflage net to make that camo fantastic. And yeah, that's what I run. I mean, like I say, if you want to play this tank more brawling, you don't care about the camo, you could quite happily run the traction system and go at 38 kilometers an hour. You could run vents to get even better DPM if you wanted to. If you feel like it's not powerful enough in the engine and you don't get to your top speed quick enough, you could run the powertrain. I wouldn't really recommend running the gun lane drive because I do think your aim time is already so good that you don't need to make it better generally. You're probably better going with vents to make it slightly better with vents, but then make everything else better, right? It's down to you and how you want to play this tank. So let's have a quick look at the statistics of the tank now. It's fully equipped out, and as you can see, the terrain resistances have dropped a little bit because of Born Leader and food. Camo is now down at 269 meters of still concealment, which is fantastic. 283 meters of camo on the move as well, because we've knocked it down with silent driving. 486 meters of view range is pretty damn nice to be able to spot things at further distances so that you can use the great camo that this thing has. You use these two in conjunction, you will have a good time. You've now got a 19.55 degrees a second turret rotation speed, which is a little bit faster than it was, but we've not done too much to help that out. You've got 0.3 accuracy during rotation, which is fantastic. So if you were to turn on the spot and if you're just on the spot and keep turning the turret, the gun will not bloom out very much at all, which is great. You've got 6.71 second reload, which is fantastic, which is a 3.5k DPM, which is great. Again, if you boost with food, you're getting that up even higher. It was down at like 6.3 second reload, which is great again. You've got the 0.42 accuracy down to 0.34, which is definitely better. You've got 2.41 accuracy during movement as well, which again is a lot better than the 0.3, whatever it was, 3.8, something like that, 3.6. That's still a lot better. And you've got 1.57 second aim time, which again means that this gun does just aim in very, very, very quickly. But yeah, that's the TS-60. Like I say, I think it's a pretty damn nice Tier 9 tank destroyer. It plays very much like a heavy, but you can fall back on the tank destroyer qualities if you really need to. It doesn't throw everything into armor and you lose all the camo, which is definitely quite nice for the vehicle. I do think it's a very funky looking tank, but the skin that you get with it, if you buy the Ultimate Pass, is very, very nice. This Devil Dog skin, I'm going to call it the Devil Dog skin. You can see the sandbags and stuff like that. It's just a pretty nice skin to have on it, and it does make the tank look even cooler, to be fair. And yeah, that's the TS-60. So without further ado, I'm going to send you over to the replays where you can watch this tank in action, see how it handles, see if this tank looks like it's something that's a bit of you, and if not, then you might go, you know what, I'm not on the ultimate pass. Down to you and what you think this tank looks like, but yeah, I'm going to send you over to the replays, so I'll see you there. So here we are in the replays with the TS-60, and we're on the first map, which is Hidden Village, and on Hidden Village I'm thinking, you know what, I'm going to go scrap, because, like I say, I like the armor on this tank. I feel like I can brawl in this tank, so we're going to go put it through its paces on the front lines in this Tier 10 game. And yeah, just see how it handles. If I go to the position at G4, hopefully I can side scrape off the rock, and then I'll be able to start pummeling shots at the people that might camp back at F3, because obviously what tends to happen on Hidden Village a lot of the time is that when the teams advance, they either all advance to this rock where we're going here, or they end up just all sitting at F3, sorry, behind the rock, and at E2, and then their whole team just stops there, which is death. That's generally death for your team, because that means that they just get pinned in, surrounded, and die very, very quickly in a crossfire. And that's what is starting to tend to happen here on this game. So we're just pulling up. We see the lower plate shot on the TS-60, put the shot straight through. Now that lower plate shot on the TS-60 is a yellow, is an orange pen marker with this tank, which has got 258 pen. If he angled even more, there's a likelihood, you know, we might actually bounce, but we did go straight through it. Like, so the lower plate isn't infallible, it just means that because of the thickness, you can get some really good ricochets. And there we've just bounced off of the back of this TS-60 here, because we fired too high. We fired too high at this enemy TS-60 and hit the little shovel thing. Actually, they look like barrels. They're barrels. Barrels in the shovel. They're barrels in the shovel. We actually hit that and we bounced. So that's what I mean, that, you know, those barrels on the back can actually ricochet shots for you and can actually save you a little bit sometimes when things catch you unawares. But here you're seeing the problem with the armor, and that is the armor's good, but when people are firing 300 plus pen heat rounds, they are going straight through the gun mantle, which is a bit of a problem. It means when you're side scraping, you're like, yes, I'm in my position of strength. Wait, where's my hit points going? What's happening? So if people are firing standard at you, they will ricochet off the turret front quite a lot, but as soon as they're firing heat like you just saw against the Murat, they do go through the front, which is one of those things, because if they just fired standard, especially when I was shooting that Murat, they could actually hit the cupola quite easily, and the cupola is exceptionally pennable. It's not one of those cupolas which is troll, where you shoot it and tends to mostly do viewport damage. It does get full penned all the time. It is a very valid weak spot to shoot at on this vehicle. So we're deciding to try and push the tempo in a different way. That wasn't working where I was. The Grill 15 can actually see us from that position. He shot the Ruthless, but the Ruthless drives around and deletes the TS-6. Now I think, oh god, that might have been a mistake. Unfortunately, the gun derps and hits the upper plate of the Murat, and the Murat then thought differently of attacking me because, well, I've got a Waffly 100 fend, and the Waffly 100 friend just said, delete, and got rid of that Murat with his clip. But we're going to now push up to this corner again and try and do what this tank wants to be doing, which is side scraping. It's what it wants to do. It's a rear-mounted turret tank, and side scraping is what it's very, very good at. So we're against the Grill 15 here. We've got to be careful because the Grill 15 obviously has quite high pen. He might be able to just go through the front of the turret, especially if he's firing premium, which it seems to be what he's doing. And we do have to be careful. Plus, he's also higher than us, which means shooting it down at our cupola is even easier for him. But he's trying to get some awkward shots at us, but his gun elevation is letting him down. We have broke his gun there with the shot as well. We're up to 2.3k damage with 1,011 assistance, and we're just watching that corner. We're just watching for the grill. We cannot push at all with that griller there. We just can't. So we just have to sit and wait and see what happens, because, yeah, it is what it is. The Grill 15 ends up driving round. We tried to back up more to get a shot at him, but the Waffly 100 was sat behind us, and the Waffle actually kills the griller, which is fine. The Mauschen actually misses us there, so we got the time to just aim up at his cupola and shut down the Mauschen there for our second kill of the game. We're up to 2.7k damage with 1,200 assistance, just chasing after the remnants of the enemy team. We get shot straight through the side of that E4, who just got instantly deleted, and there goes the artillery as well. Blink of an eye, those two tanks are just boop, gone. And we finished that game with the epic victory, 2 kills, 3,071 damage, 1,211 assistance, a bit of blocked. The third class for the 1,454 base XP. A fairly average game there for the TS-60 on Hidden Village. I think you saw some of the strengths and weaknesses there. You saw how quick the gun aims in, how nice the DPM is, but also when people start to sling heat at you, how much the armor goes from, hey, this is pretty good, to, oh boy, we're getting penned all the time, which is definitely a bit of a painful thing for this tank, because, like I say, it's like you can't rely on the armor, even though the armor is really good. When you're looking at, depending on what you're shooting, if you're side-scraping, you're shooting against tier 7s and tier 8s, you're going, yeah, my armor's fantastic, I'm going to bounce everything, right? But if you're going against tier 9s and 10s, you're like, can I trust that this person isn't shooting premium? No, I can't. And therefore my armor goes from, I can bounce everything to, oh, I can't, which is definitely very, very awkward. Also, with this tank, it does depend on what side you're side-scraping, because you just saw on that replay, and you're going to see it again in this replay, just how awkward it can be when you're side-scraping on your left-hand side, or should I say when you're trying to shoot over the left-hand side of the tank, because your cupola is overexposed, and then people can find the shots at it. And the reason I've included this replay, especially, is because we're going to shoot at a lot of other TS-60s, because there's 4 on the enemy team. We are top tier, which is nice. And you're gonna be able to see bird's eye view, essentially, of what the weak points are like when you are shooting at it, and especially when you end up firing heat at it too. So we're on the second replay. The second replay is on El Haloof. And what we're going to do on El Haloof is go to this corner and side scrape off of it, because we can side scrape off it and shoot the people that are coming down the A line, who will be in the perfect position for us to get these shots. So we're just using the rock to lever ourselves around, go for the lower plate shot on the TS-60. We pen it straight through the lower plate. He misses, so I go, okay, let's get a shot through him. Go for that side shot, and unfortunately, it ends up going slightly to the left and hitting his upper plate. We've got a shot now at the 7.52. That was really the wrong place to shoot at the 7.52. We were never going to track and pen it there. I should have just shot its lower plate. We put an AP round straight through the cupola there of the TS-60. He fires heat straight through the front of our turret, because that's, again, is what happens. We put a shot through the lower plate of the other TS-60, but we end up taking a hit through our side there. I think I over-angled it. We get a shot through the cupola again of the TS-60 in front of us. He just slung heat straight at the side of our turret, and it went through. Again, you're just seeing it there. Like, we can pen the cupola very easily, but as soon as people are slinging heat, they do tend to go through the front of this turret, which can be awkward. Again, we've over-angled the tank quite a lot there, which means that the turret ring actually became a lot weaker, and that's why the object 7.52 managed to go through our side when we were side scraping. So we go for the cupola shot there on the other TS-60, and again, it flies through. You're seeing how weak that cupola is. If people aim for it, they will hit it, and if they hit it, they will pen it. And we're just being very, very careful, because we are a one-shot for their team now, which, again, makes it very awkward for us to be able to side-scrape this, because if they are slinging heat, which most of them were, it means that they will just be able to go, oh, look, the TS-60, bang, straight through the side of the turret or through the gun manlet, and there goes our armor. So I decided, okay, you know what, I'm going to test the heat rounds, because I've not done it yet. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to sling the heat rounds at the turret front of the other TS-60 and see just how easy it is, because it seems to be that they're butchering my turret with heat rounds, right? And I wanted to just test it myself. But we're not actually getting shots at the other TS-60, because the other guys are looking around the corner, and I just don't want to take the hit from these guys at the minute. We managed to get a shot straight through the IS-3, and I'm just waiting for my team to pressure them and take the hits, essentially, so that I'm not going to be the one that dies as soon as I play this corner. Because the Ho-Ri does have very, very good pen in of itself, which means naturally he might just go straight through us because he's got such good penetration. We do go for the heat round through the TS-60 there, but it didn't go through. We go for it again, but we shot the far side of his turret, which is actually the most well-angled section there. We didn't hit the flattest part, which is what we want to do with this heat round. The TS-60 is coming back round for another go, and there we go. We shoot the flattest part of his turret that was aiming towards us, and the heat just went straight through the turret front. And then again, you just saw there, that's what happens when you load the heat, or someone firing that heat round that has 320 heat pen is going to do to the front of this turret. It can just go straight through, so that's a bit awkward. So we're now angling for a shot at the Object 752, but we can't quite find it. We go for the cupola shot on the TS-60. We get lucky there that other TS-60 is firing heat, and he shot us in the tracks. We are relying on our DPM. We fired first, so I knew I was going to reload before the TS-60. Got the shot straight through his cupola and finished him off. Again, this is the reason I wanted to show this replay, if I'm 100% honest. It's because of the amount of TS-60s we were shooting, and you just saw what it's like and where you want to shoot at this thing if it's looking at you. Because that weak spot is very, very easy to hit, and that means that it's very, very easy to pen, and you can just shut them down. means it's not a total gob when it is side scraping. Because if it is side scraping, you can just go, right, okay, show me that cupola, thank you. But naturally, as a TS-60, you can also limit their exposure to be able to shoot your cupola. You can, especially if you're side scraping round and you're looking through the right-hand side of your tank, you're going to make it so that they can't see that at all. But then you've got the problem that if they were firing really high pen rounds, they might go through the side of the turret, or the side of the turret that's facing them with quite a lot of ease. You also just saw what the reload is like, by the way, when you boost with food. 6.1 second reload is filthy. The DPM on this tank is absolutely beautiful. So, we're going after the other TS-60. There he is. He's on this corner, and I'm looking at it going, he's not really giving us, if he's exposing, he's not giving us shots at his cupola very much. But we're going to see if he's going to give it to us. We can see the viewport that's on the left-hand side. But to be honest, that viewport on the left-hand side of the turret is not really a weak spot. He gets penned by the guy that was on my left. So I decided, okay, let's see if we can splash him to death. Or at least knock him down to a one-shot with HE splash. And that way we can splash him with the HE again in a second and finish him off, hopefully. So I chance it. I go around the corner, fire the HE. And we hit the gun. We hit the gun with the HE, which was the only place that we weren't going to be able to splash him to death. But thankfully, my TS-60 friend on my left managed to finish him off. We're up to 4,021 damage, and there's only 3 tanks left. There's a heavy tank that's down in the ditch at F7. The light tank is also down there when it was last spotted. And the tank destroyer here, which is the Hori 2, up directly in front of us. So we're just going to close the distance as quickly as possible in the hope that we can get there and get an extra shot. And you're seeing here with the tank being at 35 kilometers an hour top speed, we do hit that top speed, but if you're trying to chase, it does feel, you can feel that slowness really. But we managed to get up behind the Hori 2, snap the shot in, and the Lerva with his new 360 Alpha managed just to finish off that Hori 2. And finished the game with the victory. 2 kills, 4.4k damage. The little bit of blocked, didn't really block too much on that one, for same with side scraping, but a lot of the premium rounds went straight through. Confederate with the sniper medal, 1454 base XP. Again, a pretty average game there for the TS-60. It really did just show off how to take these things down when you are facing them. Either shoot the cupola or just load premium and go through the turret front that's facing the closest section facing you. Because obviously, like I say, the turret front is really well angled, and just the way it's angled means that you will ricochet a lot of shots off of it. But if you shoot the part that is facing you, you will go through it with like 300 plus pen, or 310, 320, you know, like we've been shooting at it with our own heat rounds, and like our own heat rounds have been slung back at us. So we're on to the third replay of the video, and this one we're on Redshire, and on Redshire, you know, this is a very hilly map. We've got a lot of ridgelines to fight on, and we can play this tank a lot more like a TD over here, because naturally we can play it at big further distances. There's not much area to brawl, so we'll see a bit more of the TD capacity of it, and also what it's kind of like on a ridgeline. I said the 7 degrees of gun depression is definitely very nice. Well, it's definitely nice, but it can be awkward depending on the situation. But at least it's not 5 degrees, and a lot of the rear-mounted turrets tend to have 5 degrees of gun depression as well, which is very, very annoying. So you can still use this tank on ridgelines like this. I mean, you can see we can get the gun down to our right, and if anyone goes to where that HWK was, we'll be able to get the gun down. We do manage to get a shot slung in straight on target. We got unlucky that the MBTB hit us on the move, which was very unlucky. But we get a shot through the lower plate of the Ruthless, which we really want to get rid of if we can. So we just try and get the shot in, but we preempt our reload there and fire that little bit too early, which was just a bit awkward. And now I'm seeing this Ruthless coming after us. We get the shot through his lower plate, and I'm like, oh boy, this is going to hurt. We can't avoid this. But our armor is really nice, and like I say, because he doesn't quite have that ridiculously high penetration, he actually ricochets off our side of turret there, which means we're up to 2.8k blocked. We managed to get another shot through the side of the MBTB. We're up to 1500 damage. Just looking for shots towards the HWK-12, who is trying to run away. We're going to watch this gap in case the MBTB drives through it, and sadly, we fired that split second too early, which means we bounced off the turret front. The MBTB's trying to get shots at us. We put a shot through his weak point on his turret, which damages his Amarak. He slings heat at us and ricochets, and we are all Gucci because that Ruthless is gone, which is great. We didn't want that Ruthless to be sitting over there because, well, naturally he could just sling Hesh and it wouldn't go well for us, and also he's got very good AP, which would then take 1,000 of our hit points. So we get a shot through the HWK, which tracked him, then someone else shot him and tracked him again, which meant that it was death for that poor tier 8 light tank. Now the MBTB is doing, well, questionable things. We get a shot through the side of him, and he gets shut down. There's no defending of the Byzantine Emperors there from the Varangian Guard, and we are going to now advance on to the opposite side of this ridgeline because, well, our medium tank's just pushed into it, which means there's nothing else on the other side of here. So if there's anything that does get spotted at the back, like the heavy tank that's just got spotted, we'll be able to get over and get some shots into it. So you can see we get a nice shot through the lower plate there of the Tiger II. That wasn't really very well aimed, but we'll take it. And this is where we're trying to just maneuver some kind of gun depression to get a shot at this Tiger II. And this is where the 7 degrees of gun depression is a little bit awkward because we just can't quite get the gun low enough. We sling a shot straight towards that Tiger II, but sadly it doesn't go through. We've now got shots at the Waffle Panzer IV, who is very much in the open. Put the shot straight through his side. He gets tracked in a position that maybe I could shoot at, but sadly he gets unspotted just as that happens, which means we can't farm him. But he fires at my friend, which gets him lit up. We snap the shot straight through the Waffle Panzer IV there. He's now down to 18 HP, which means there's a one shot for pretty much everyone, and the Murat ends up shutting it down. We know there's a couple of things back there, because it wasn't just that Tiger II. There was a couple of other shots that flew at us from back on that K-line, so we've got to be very, very careful of that. Hopefully someone might light it up. I mean, we've got a Tusk with us who's got very, very good view range, so he might be able to get us some assistance, or should I say, we might be able to get him some assistance by his spotting. So I'm trying to push into a different position here to see if I get some shots towards the T-57 Heavy, but I couldn't. We managed to get a shot through and finish off the Tiger II there. The Brass gets tracked in the open, just waiting on the reload, and sadly we don't quite get the time to be able to finish that guy off. But I decided, okay, you know what, I'm going to move forward and see if I could spot the guys on the hill. We shoot towards the Sturm Tiger Pete, though, who got spotted, and end up not hitting him, but hitting someone else. Someone else is directly in front of him, and that meant we managed to pen it. Unfortunately, the next shot towards that Sturm Tiger P didn't go anywhere near. We put the shot in, though, for 384, which is a low roll. Didn't kill him. We did take a big hit from something. Looking for the next shot into the Leopard 1, and then we taken another hit. I think the Leopard 1 actually managed to snap a shot into us, and then the grill from the back managed to put us down another 750 hit points there, which is a sad time. We've lost most of our hit points now, so that means we've got to be very, very careful. Up to 4.7k damage with 840 assistance, and yeah, this is where we're going to have to play more TDS. We're going to have to rely on that 269 meters of still concealment, and just hope that our people spot, because the moment our people spot, we'll be able to get them some assistance. We thought the Gorilla fired at us from somewhere around their cap. More than likely he's probably moved by now, but there he is. He gets spotted. We put the shot down range, and naturally, track damage only. We don't track him in place, which would have been nice. We'd be able to get some assistance there, but hey-ho. And that Grill 15 actually just gets... He just vanishes. His health hit points just went, boop, gone. Just in the blink of an eye. And that meant that we didn't manage to get any other shots at the Grill 15. We know where the Leopard is, though. So what we're going to do is now maneuver towards the T-57 Heavy. You've just seen shell tracers flying from directly in front of us. So we're trying to maneuver into position so we can spot the T-57 Heavy, and our team might be able to shoot him and get rid of him. And then we can maybe maneuver into a better position to shoot the Leopard 1. So we're just going to close the distance as much as possible. I'm thinking, should I load HE? Yeah, let's load HE, because we don't actually have to pen the T-57 Heavy there. Then we can just splash him. But he gets shut down, which means we just go straight back to the AP rounds. There's the Leopard 1. He gets spotted. And maybe if we get into this gap of the buildings, we can actually get a shot at him. So we're just going, come on, tank. Come on. Come on, tank. Let's get there. This is where the speed is a little bit slow. We've got the shot on the Leopard 1 and get the gun aimed in and shut him down. And we're on to a pretty nice game there for the TS-60 on Redshire. We're finished with the victory. 3 kills, 4.9k damage, 840 assistance, 3.2k blocked, by the way. Good amount of blocked. The steel wall for that 1588 base XP. A pretty damn nice game there for the TS-60 on Redshire. And now we're on to the 4th replay. There's only one more replay after this, and we are on Highway. And on Highway, what I'm going to do is take it towards the town. I mean, it is Encounter, so we might have to get stuck in the town if they do start to cap. But from the ridgeline at E9, D9, we should be able to get shots towards into the town. And anyone that does cross up the J line as well, we might be able to get shots at them if they get spotted. there's many things we can do. And it means that we're just in a good position to get early shots, but also flex into the town if we have to. And this is where, again, the tank is a little bit slow. We're going at, like, what, 32 kilometers an hour, which means that we're just that little bit too slow to possibly get into the position we want to be on the ridge and try and spot the early progressors up the J line if anyone was a little bit too close to us on that little pathway that leads into the town. But we're just trying to maneuver ourselves into a position to see if we can spot it if we can. We've got our view range boosted with food, and there are two shots. Two shots have just flown from inside the town. You can see the shots, and I'm like, okay, you know what, let's pop up a shot blind. Sadly, it dropped a little bit low, and just as we fired it, we actually spotted the Pantera, which is typical. If I'd waited that split second longer, I'd have actually been able to shoot the Pantera rather than trying to get that blind shot, but hey-ho. But now they're capping. And you can actually see in this replay as well something that was new with this patch, and that is the cap there in front of us, the cap counter, or whatever you want to call it, which means you can now exactly see who is capping, whether it's our team or their team, how many of each team is also in the cap. The last one was a little bit... It was a little bit confusing at times because, especially for an encounter, it said there was like 5, 6, 7 people in the cap, but it never differentiated from what team they were. And also with the way it used to be as well, it was sometimes a little bit confusing because it was like the green flag would light up and start capping, and sometimes you're thinking, is that us capping or is that them? So this new cap counter or cap icon is definitely a lot better. But you can see that the cap is dropping. 14 seconds, there's 4 of them in the cap. We have to get into it. I mean, it's encounter, so all we have to do is place ourselves into the cap circle. That's all we have to do. Is just get inside the circle, and that will stop the cap. It will tie it. So we just got to keep moving. We tried to snap a shot on the move at the IS-3, and you saw it missed because, well, it's not very accurate on the move, is this TS-60, so yeah, it's going to miss if you try and take those shots. And we just managed to get ourselves into the cap, which stops it from being able to be capped. And this is where we're going to be very, very aggressive, because we are top tier. We're facing 2 tier 8s here. Let's push in. Sadly, we make a mistake. We get pinned in the lower plate by the Pantera, and we ricocheted off his armor because we shot at the really well-angled side. We try and get a shot into the IS-3's upper plate, and sadly, again, it goes off to the right and ricochets. Going for that shot again. This time it goes in. And this is where you're seeing against tanks that have got like 220 pen. The armor on this tank is very, very nice. We're facing, you know, tier 8 tanks here with 220 pen. And they are starting to struggle to go through as if we have the angle. He did go through our side, though, the Pantera there. So it's not like it's perfect, but you've just got to hold the angle. We're not flat on. We're making it as difficult as possible. The E75 drove round and ended up just ricocheting off of our side. The IS-3 bounces again, and we shut down the tier 8 Soviet heavy tank there with a shot through his upper plate. The E75 is coming around again. He ends up tracking us only. The Pantera takes the shot that I was hoping to kill the E75 with, and there's only 1 tank left in front of us. So we're going for the cupola here on the E75, but sadly it doesn't go through. So we're going to load heat, because the heat rounds will help us out. His shot snapped towards our lower plate, ends up going extremely far to the right and only tracks us. With this heat round, hopefully if we get it aimed in towards his cupola, it'll finish him off. That shot goes, well, I don't know, but we couldn't see because of the fire. He drives around, bounces off our lower plate, and we put the heat round straight through his cupola, or his turret front there, and we get rid of the German tier 9 tech tree heavy tank. We then get another shot into the lower plate of the T28, and because, like I said, the lower plate on this tank is this tank is very Panzer 7-esque in the way it can play, and that means that sometimes you can hang your lower plate around that corner at an extreme angle and just bait it, and people go, oh, I can shoot the lower plate, and they'll ricochet because it is really strong. We get a shot through the lower plate of the SMV there, go for his lower plate again, and sadly this time we ricochet because, again, with the SMV CC67, you do have to shoot the part of the lower plate that is closest to you, not further away or in the middle. It's kind of like the E5 lower plate in a way. If you shoot the middle, that's where it's actually strongest. You want to shoot either side, left or right, and preferentially the one that is closest to you, and that's going to make it easy to go through. So sadly, when we actually shot at the middle of his lower plate, we ricocheted. We do have a damaged gun, which means our gun bloom is absolutely huge, and I'm just hoping for my repair kit to come back so that I can make this gun better. The Hori gets shut down by the Pantera, and now there's only 3 tanks left on the enemy team. We know where 2 of them are, so we sling a shot down range towards the Su-122-54. Boost our reload with food. He's spotted crossing the open, so we managed to get a shot straight through his side, which actually didn't pen him, but only tracked him. He gets unspotted, so we try and put a shot blind in towards that AC-122-54 to finish him off, but sadly, it didn't go anywhere near. Now there's an Ariete P46 attacking our TDs, so we want to get in there to see if we can help them out as much as possible. He's dumped his whole clip into the Waffle Panzer IV, so we can just see the side of his turret, just waiting for the Panzer IV to cross so we can put the shot in, and he gets shot down by the two TDs. Now there's only one tank left on the enemy team. It is another tank destroyer, who we're assuming is somewhere in this corner. There we go. He fires at one of our friendly tank destroyers, exposing himself, and it's like, hello, Mr. Object 704. I know you fired, so I'm going to be able to get at least 2 shots off before you're ready to go, because he was firing APCR as well, which will, well, our poor armor will just melt. But he doesn't shoot at us, he shoots at one of the other TDs. We get the shots through his superstructure. He's just going to drop too low for us to get any more shots at him, though, which is a sad, sad time. So we're just going to have to try and chase him down to see if we can at least get one more shot of damage, because that's what we want. You always want that when you're playing the game. You're always going, one more shot, one more shot. I just want one more shot of damage if I can get it. But sadly, the Pantera shuts down the Object 704, meaning we get no more damage in this game. We do finish the game with a nice total there with the victory. 3 kills, 5.1k damage, 3.4k blocks as well. The steel wall, the high caliber, the second class, for 1685 base XP. A pretty good game there for the TS-60 on highway. Shown again, depending on what you're facing, the armor on this tank can be really damn nice, and you can just play pretty damn aggressively, get stuck in, get brawling, get side scraping, you'll have a good time. And we're on to the 5th and final replay. Well played if you are this far. And we are on steps, and this is one of the best games I've had in this tank. We're bottom tier. Well, it's pretty typical tier 9 matchmaking, if we're honest. We're against a lot of tier 10s. And what we're going to do on the wonky spawns of steps is push towards the position at G9. Because if we push towards the position at G9, we can cut off any attempt from the enemy team to cross along the JK line and get towards the corner at JK90. Also, if they do hit the corner at J90, we can also get some pretty easy shots at them while staying covered behind the little ridgeline at G8 as well. It's a very, very nice position to take to cut off any advances from the enemy team, and then you can push in aggressively straight down the J line towards their cap, and then if you need to, you can then cut up the middle road to try and get back to assist in defending their attack towards your base. So as you can see, there is nothing. Nothing has crossed. 2 TDs have made it to J9. They've not spotted anything, so we're going to push quite aggressively. We end up finding a TS-60, snapped the shot towards him, sadly didn't pen him, but did track him. He repaired and got instantly retracked, which is where you want to have track mechanic. We put a shot through his lower plate. He's now 530 hit points, just waiting on the reload. Sadly, don't quite get the shot into his lower plate before he gets back, but the M48A5 shuts him down. There's also an SDRV-103B up there. So what I'm going to do is push up to this ridge line over here that you can see directly in front of us, because then we'll be able to get some shots cheekily towards the SDRV-103B. He takes a massive hit then from, I think, the 4005, which gives us a load of assistance. We load HE because it is an SDRV-103B. We can't really pen it with our caliber of gun, but if we hit it with HE, we will splash it. We got detected, which made me think, okay, the SDRV is looking at us. So we tried to pop a blind HE round, but didn't. Well, we shot in the wrong spot. We aim towards the cupola, which then only splashes for 127, but you see, we're always doing damage to this guy, whereas we ricochet with AP, but we can pen the cupola with HE if it flies true, which it did, and we penned it for 447. Generally, if I'm facing an SDRV-103B, I will always load HE, because my AP pen, generally, will go through the cupola, but I won't pen the SDRV anywhere else because of the caliber of the gun. It generally will just ricochet. Whereas if I load HE and I don't hit the cupola, I will splash it for like 150, 200, and you can also set them on fire quite regularly doing that. But if I do hit the cupola with HE, it will pretty much always pen. So, like you saw there, we penned it for 447. Which is great. That's always what you want to do against those SDRVs, and then it nullifies basically everything that the SDRV is, which is it basically runs on the overmatch mechanic, right? So we get a nice shot there into the Centurion AVRE's side, trying to see if we can get a cheeky shot towards this Highlander, trying to just maneuver it. Then we see the E3, which we get a nice shot through the side of his tank there, and the T-54E1 has pushed us. It's like, hello, Mr. T-54E1. I'm starting to get friends, so maybe if this guy comes round and attacks me, I'll actually have people shoot him. So we're just trying to maneuver to get a position to get a shot at him, but because of the way the ridge lines are, it's a little bit awkward because we're going to end up tilting our armor up, which makes it kind of pointless at times. He's now attacking us, though, to dump his clip, and he's firing heat. So he ends up hitting our turret front, ricocheting off of our turret front with his heat rounds, and in fact, he never actually hit the back shovel there. I did say in the review part that I did E1 rushes and bounce every shot. He just ended up auto-aiming and firing at our turret front and ricocheting every single heat shell, because he didn't aim it there, which then, with help from our friends, thankfully, we got rid of him. Look for the cupola shot on that M48A5, but sadly, we didn't get the shot in because he got set on fire and he burnt out. We'll look for the shot in the side of the Highlander, but the Highlander's got pretty good armor, so we end up ricocheting there, which is kind of awkward. We noticed that the TD seems to be flying towards us, but we're just looking to see if we can find that shot into the Highlander. Can't quite find it, but we look for the shot into his cupolas, and it doesn't go anywhere near. But the E3 is now coming after us. It's like, Mr. E3, this is not a good time for me, because that's going to hurt if he decides to just have fire APCR at us. So we switched to heat rounds, because firing at an E3 is a little bit awkward with 258 pen, especially if you get his front. Even shooting at his lower plate with 258, you might ricochet a lot of shells. So we just load the 320 heat pen, that way we'll be able to go through it. Sadly, we bounced off his side. He does have someone else starting to shoot at him now. He's given us his side, which, well, we put the heat round straight through his upper plate there because we're shooting down on it, which made it better. Now I'm going to try and get round on this E3, but he's swiveling very, very quickly. So I think, you know what, you've already fired, so I'm just going to track you in place. And that gives the M48A5 a very easy shot to finish off that tier 10 tank destroyer. There's only 4 tanks left on the enemy team. There's the Kampfpanzer 50T in front of us, and then the 2 heavy tanks that are spotted over there, and the Centurion AVRE, which is somewhere unknown to us, which is kind of scary because that thing could just delete us, and we don't want that. So we load the heat rounds because we see the 279E, and we can't go through the 279E reliably at all with the AP, but with the heat we can. We try and snap the shot towards the 279E because we didn't aim it properly, and we didn't aim it all the way. It ends up missing. We boost our reload and basically our accuracy and aim time as well with the food, and the shot goes straight through the side of that 279E. Now we've got a shot at the side of the turret of the AVRE, but sadly, again, we didn't aim it all the way, so the shot flew above it. If you do not aim the shots all the way, this tank tends to miss quite a lot. You do have to wait for the aim, but you don't have to really wait that long because the aim time is fantastic. The AVRE is driving up, and I'm like, well, I don't want to get penned by this guy, so we're just going to wiggle, make it as difficult as possible for him to pen us. He hits us for about 500-600. And I'm pretty convinced there that that E5 is dead. So I go, okay, I'm going to ignore the E5 and go after this AVRE who is reloading. Since we're above the AVRE, that means we can go through the top of his turret pretty easily. We're penning for 335, a massive low roll there. Looking for the next shot into the top of his turret, straight through for 408, damages the ammo rack, which means he's never going to reload in time. But he's started to angle himself up a bit, which makes his turret even better, and we ricochet off the turret top there. And the M47 Arnie shuts down the Centurion AVRE. We finished with a really nice total there. We finished with the victory. 2 kills, 4.1k damage, 3.4k assistance. The first class for 1873 base XP. A really nice game for the TS-60 on steps. And yeah, that's the TS-60. That's the ultimate pass tank that you can pick up for 6,000 gold. I do think it's a very, very solid tank destroyer. It has a lot of strengths. It does have its weaknesses. And it can be, I just feel like it's a very enjoyable tank to play, to be honest. So as always, thank you very much everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time.
A great success.